Okay, so what is up, everyone? Welcome back to a brand new episode of Bear with Kalra. My name is Akash Kalra. I'm your host. So today we have got a really special guest with us. Our guest, Mr. Vikas Singh, is an entrepreneur who started off as a software engineer and worked around 5 years in a telecom industry. He got a chance to work on blockchain technology in 2016, and soon he founded his own startup. The startup is called Block Labs with a QUE at the end. He is a TEDx speaker. He has won international hackathons. He is proficient in Bitcoin, Ethereum, Hyperledge, and many more things that I can't even pronounce right now. So, thank you, sir, for being here. It's my pleasure to have you. So, you just finished a workshop on our campus. So, how was the turnout today?
The turnout was good, and like the whole ecosystem, like the whole energy was also very good.
So, sir, as I mentioned that you are an expert in blockchain technology.
No, still learning.
Still learning. That's a sign of humility. So, if you were to explain blockchain technology to a layman like me, so I was going through your previous interviews and I came across a very interesting analogy that you used to explain the concept of blockchain technology. So, can you just give a brief about that?
Yeah. So when I was in, I was delivering my TEDx talk at that time. So before that, I was like just couple of hours back, like I came up with this analogy. So I call it as newspaper analogy to understand blockchain. So this is how it goes. So let's say you receive every day. If let's say you have a subscription of a newspaper, so everybody will receive a newspaper every day. So that newspaper have the timestamp on it that hey, this got published today, and the information also.
Yes.
Like so that whole newspaper is like a block in the blockchain. It has timestamp on it and the information available inside it. So that information is available to us, and we put, let's say, how do we keep these newspapers in our house? So we keep it on like as a stack on top of each other, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So we can say by looking at the stack that hey, when I don't know like how it all summed up, but one day when I looked at my house, that hey, I just saw the stack of newspaper and somehow it got calculated within a fraction of a second, and I can see that hey, I'm looking at a blockchain because each and every newspaper is interlinked with the previous newspaper's subscription. Yesterday was linked by today, and today will be linked to the tomorrow.
Okay.
And how it was all linked, I can give an example on this. Let's say somebody will make, or somebody by mistake have done a wrong spelling mistake in today's subscription. How will they correct it? They can only correct it in tomorrow's subscription. So that's how the tomorrow's subscription is linked to the today's link.
Okay.
And that's how like the whole chain is like working.
Okay, so basically blockchain is like once one block is connected to other, and it goes on.
It goes on and on and on till the first subscription. So it goes in reverse, like so it's like our age. Like if I say that I was like a kid 20 years back, so that means I have to go back in the time series. So that's how blockchain is like a programmable time. It goes in the direction of the time. Like it can only go forward. It cannot be go on back into the future.
So like
back into the past.
many people would like see this technology and use it in their jobs, maybe use it to build their profile. What was that one thing or multiple things up to your experience that pushed you into the direction of self-employment, of startup? Like what was the turning point which made you believe in yourself that okay, I've done my job for 5 years, now it's time for me to work on my own. So what was the ideology behind that?
So the trigger point for me at that time, like it's just 1.5 years back, or should I say like 2 years back, I was like, I was into the eye of this storm. I was able to having this much, lot of people was like, I'm when I say lot of, I can say like 15, 20 or 100. So by that volume, I can say that those are the people like who were like interacting on a very frequent basis, and they were asking deeper questions now. So when your ecosystem start asking deeper question, you automatically, the onus is upon you. Let's say since you have been, let's say, into this space from some time, that you take that leadership position and you try to govern the things the way you want to. That can only happen in startup.
So you are basically the master of your own ideology, and you have the ability to modulate to your own direction, your own work.
I try to do that way, and I still try to keep that vision in check every day, that whether I'm still onto the same path or not. Because blockchain has that potential to impact a lot of people, so it can be used for a lot of social good as well.
So, like while we were talking yesterday, you said that startup is a safer option than a job,
Yes.
and that to me or basically anyone else is a very revolutionary concept to hear, because from childhood we are being told that okay, this is your 4 years of
Yeah.
study, and after that all you have to do is take a job and your future is secured. And for someone to say that doing your own part, doing your own work is a safer option, so what is the ideology? What is the thought process behind that?
So I would like when I say that startup is a safer option than the any other option that is available. So it's not to demean the 9 to 5 job because
Yeah.
because those people are also like I've been the same guy and a lot of people will be doing the same for the next of some time for their life. But when we say that we are onto the startup, so we say that hey, we have a plain roadmap in front of us which we have charted out for ourselves by seeking out the what can be the roadblocks in it, what can be the pitfalls of it, but still we have found a way to circumvent all the pitfalls, all the roadblocks, and we know that hey, this if we started this today, by this time we will have generated this much of the value.
Okay.
And sometimes in your life, the Pareto principle comes into the picture. Like 20% of the things are responsible for the 80% of the things in your life. So
Okay.
this startup can actually be in the 20% of the time. Yeah. So
So that defines your entire
80% of the life. Yes.
That's a very refreshing concept, I think, for everyone who is thinking of doing that, me myself included. Even I am like starting to pursue in the startup, in the entrepreneur direction, and
Yeah.
it's very inspiring to hear from people like you who have achieved a lot and have a very positive perspective about it. So again, you have mentioned in previous interviews, I've gone through a lot of your previous interviews. by the
Thanks
way.
a lot.
So, in one of that, you said that the first year is the most crucial year in the startup. If you get through that first year, if you get through that slump, you can make it.
Yeah.
So, in your experience, what was your first experience like?
So when I say at any point of time, or it's not me like who says, it's the data that represent that how crucial for a startup their first year is. The data goes like this: 99.99% startups actually gets wrapped up when it comes to the foiling of it. Like they get folded. The reason for that is can be anything like
Execution.
They can be external or internal.
Yeah.
Internal conflict within the team, XYZ, financial problem, marketing problem, or external like client, you are not able to meet the client or make the product relevant to the client or as per the client's need. So the reason can be external or internal, but the data says that 99.99% of the startups, because of these reasons, external or internal, gets pulled up in the first year. So that's why this much crucial thing that we are talking about here. So you have to be in that 0.01% that if you can survive the first year.
So, what was your first year like? Like, what were the few challenges, like major challenges that you had to face and like overcome that to like be in the 0.01% as you mentioned?
So again, the challenges were again internal as well as external. So internal challenges were to actually take that step. That was the first important first step, like whether you are ready to, because let's say to start a startup, there are like say the prerequisite can be like this. So if I can draw an analogy is like this. We have a form which have 50 check boxes. We have to click on all the 50 check boxes and then only the button will be pressed. Button can be pressed. So that button says you can do the startup. But you have to check box, you have all 50.
All of them, yes.
So those 50 check boxes can be different for every individual. Let's say your family has to understand what you are doing, your financial have to be set straight, your own mentality has to be ready to take the leap of faith. You should be a little bit rebel as well.
I think a lot rebellious nature is required.
Like the percentage of
I am fighting right now for that. I understand that.
Yeah, so all those things, I think there are like lot many, and some of them are very, very personal for the people.
If you have a personal drive to achieve, I
Yes.
think you can put in as much as hard work you want to, and you won't feel like you're working right now.
Exactly, because the energy is so you are always like on the top of your energy. You will never feel that hey, you are
Exactly,
slogging 18 hours a day, you are doing 100 hours a
Yeah.
week. That's what Elon does. And Elon says that hey, if you're passionate, you will not even remember or recognize that hey, you have put in 100 hours.
Also,
into your
like
job.
I was listening to I listen to a lot of podcasts.
Awesome.
So one of them was Gary Vee, if you
Yeah.
heard of him. Yeah. So he was talking about how in your 20s you have the ability to do exactly whatever you want to do. So to get a job tradition, it's like not bad. It's not a bad thing to do.
Yeah, he never said that it's bad. He always
If you
acknowledged the
want
fact.
to do something
Yes.
else, then this is the time to do it.
Yes. From now, if you start beating the drum, that will take time to people recognize and they will start dancing to the tune.
But the major problem that startups have, which even I am having right now, is the generation of revenue from the ground up. Because right now we are putting money from our own pockets, from parents' pockets, and we don't earn anything.
Yeah.
So, at what point of time did you start generating significant revenue that you could employ people and you can pay the people who are working with you? Like, what was that time?
So revenue is the most critical aspect. Like when you starting off, like one of the major check boxes.
Yeah,
being the rebel is okay, but having the financial set for the company for at least a year or at least 6 months should be there. So what I was like, this is how I was generating at that revenue at that time. I was doing freelancing as well.
Oh, okay.
So that is also helping me to test the water without getting drowned.
Yeah.
So make sure that I always say freelancing is one better way, one better option to actually test the waters of any new technology or any proven technology without actually getting swallowed by that technology. So that let's say that you cannot go. So I changed my path from a job to a startup when I have tested the waters. So I would try to speak on the similar lines for any profession.
So basically, your whole thing is that you need to be good at something before you take that step. You should not just be a rebel and I'm going to do it. You have to be good at it.
There is a very fine line being a rebel and being consciously smart, like what you want to achieve. So before even starting my startup, I did my self-analysis in a very refined way that how generally I behave when I, let's say, start anything new. So do I commit myself 100% or not?
Okay.
So all these, your personal trait, you should be like very consciously, you should be able to connect the dot backwards, like what Jobs said. But if you are good, like you have a very detailed analysis of yourself, I think you can connect the dot backwards about yourself, that how generally you behave when you are put into a alienated situation. For a startup was an alien situation for me, but I have done my self-analysis that hey, this is generally I behave when I get into a fresh new something, like this is how I'll behave in this. And that analysis has helped me to take that plunge, and most of that analysis shall have worked because we are sitting here.
Yeah, exactly. I'm talking to you.
Yeah,
it is. Again, do you think that the major quality to be a successful entrepreneur is to have that inner spirit of curiosity in you? Because without curiosity, in my opinion, you cannot just like dive into something unless and until you are curious about things, you're open-minded and you want to learn new things.
Yes.
So is it like important to be curious, or just like I know one thing and I'll stick to that one thing and I'll do the startup on that?
I think it's a mixture of that, but you have to be like consciously you are upgrading yourself in the back of the mind as well. You should be curious that what's happening around me. You should be able to refine that what's going to work for me. You should stick to that and make sure that whatever is happening around that point, you are learning from your ecosystem, and you can always judge every day that hey, whether you are going into that needle movement kind of stuff. If your needle is moving into the direction in which you wanted to move, and if it is moving and you are keeping that in check, I think you are going in the right direction. And when we say that we can check it every day, it's like an agile way to make sure that hey, I'm going in that direction or not. If I'm not going in that direction, maximum 1 day or 2 day or a maximum of a week effort will go waste. Otherwise, rest of the thing will still be intact. It's like when we are committing the code, we want to go back.
We see the debugs and then we move on forward.
Yes.
Okay. Because I asked this question because you were talking about this one thing that you came across the term distributive ledger technology, which is like the backbone of blockchain, I suppose. While reading a newspaper, traveling from East Delhi to Gurgaon.
Yeah.
So that is why I asked, because that just shows that you had a curious mindset and you wanted to know more things, and something hit you, something particular just like spoke to you, and then you diverted your entire career from telecommunication to blockchain technology. So that is why I was asking, because your entire process of work started from that little curiosity because you were reading that article.
And you were curious enough to find that turning point.
Yeah.
Awesome work with that.
So, do you really think that our education system is catering to that curiosity, or is just making mind-numbing similar kind of people right now?
That's a deeper one.
Yeah, that's a deep question.
That's pretty deeper one. So as per me, like I think this is what. So I have developed this school of thought now, like slowly and gradually, that I can see that if I talk about our general education, like public education, it's good, but I think like sometimes it's unnecessary stretched for a year. Things which we can teach at least maximum 3 to 6 months.
That is so true.
We are like stretching it for a year.
That is so true.
So I guess sometimes I think they are deliberately delaying the stuff.
Yeah.
So because you will see the options. Let's say 12-year kid is doing 10th class. It's no big feat. It's no big achievement. Reason why I say that it's no big achievement, because if you see, a guy can actually be at that level that where he can actually he can make himself like he can appear for 10th class exam. Reason, if you add a little bit of homeschooling to that, I think this adds a lot of now this homeschooling word is actually garnering a lot of attention, because homeschooling actually expedite the curiosity and helps you answer a lot of questions, lot of deeper questions. You can actually see it, let's say when you have your own kid. If you will see, Neil deGrasse Tyson says that kids are naturally scientists. They ask you deeper questions. But over the time, if you see that in going into the public education, yes, people do not ask deeper questions. I have a 3.5-year-old kid, daughter, and one day when I was like coming back from her school to home, she asked one question like, why can't we see stars right now? And it's like 12:30 in the afternoon. And I was trying to find a way that to explain her that why she cannot see stars right now, even though they are there. So these are I was like really impressed that day that hey, something is going in a right direction.
Yes.
So I think parenting today involves this thing. So education is okay, public education is fine, but I think we as a parent, we as an educated parent, we should definitely pay attention to hey, how much curious our kid is.
But as a student right now, I would slightly disagree with you on the point that public education is fine. Because what I see is we are living in a society where, for me as well, from my perspective, we are living in a society where we're trained to be exactly like everyone else.
Correct. Follower.
A sheep mentality. If someone tries to get out of that and if someone tries to push themselves in a certain direction, that is not normal.
Correct.
Instead of encouragement, we face discouragement. Like, कुछ नहीं होगा तुम्हारा, तुम बर्बाद हो रहे हो. मतलब ये चीज इतनी ज़्यादा है that I just think that something has to change.
Yes.
And it is not just an Indian schooling system. Even American schooling system may be same scenario. They're all taught to be like one another. So I just disagree with that. And
no, I agree with this point of yours. Yeah. So when I say it's okay, all I'm saying is that like since you cannot now eradicate the whole public education system from approved, or you cannot approve that. The problem is that first of all we have to be smart enough to find out the problem.
Yes.
So that's step one, stage one. We have cleared that successfully. We have
identified the problem.
Yes.
Problem hai.
Now we have to come back to a situation where we can circumvent this. Now the way I see it, that let's say, why am I taking again back? I'm taking it back again to my daughter itself. Obviously, because that's the only
source you have.
We can say that that's the only experiment that I can make it, that I can make it successful. I can actually make it successful by proving that hey, this thing or homeschooling can actually expedite a lot of stuff. But current education system and the way you are saying that hey, the herd mentality is there and they try to pull you down rather than like they pushing you or patting on your shoulder that hey, you are doing a good job, because they have not seen enough examples coming up. They only see examples when everybody is like big, green, something. They don't want you to go through the pain. But I think if you learn to enjoy the process, I think you'll be always smiling. And that's what is going to be the comforting for your parents or the people like who's from where the people actually, let's say, the family people of those entrepreneurs who are doing this stuff. So their family should understand that what this guy is up to. I think rest of the other things does not matter because you take the decision, you make it right. That's what entrepreneurs do.
Yeah.
I think that's where we can actually help them to understand after 3 to 5 years in the same domain that hey, we have come this far just because we know that we will.
Yeah, because it is our own perseverance that pushing us to achieve something. So you mentioned homeschooling, and that is something that even Gary Vee mentioned in his own podcast, that homeschooling can be very dynamic and can like push you in directions that you don't normally go. So I have a contradictory point of view in that because if you like put your kids to homeschooling, they're not learning a lot of things that you learn in school by default.
Exactly.
Like dealing with bullies, for example, dealing with oppression, creating your own friend circle, being socially active. So how do you curb that in homeschooling?
That's what I said. See, that's where we have to pick the best of the two things. So let's say we have now two options. Only smart people have two options. Common people have only one option, public education. Smart people have two options. Homeschooling as well as the schooling which we are like public education system. So you make sure that you are making sure that the public education is definitely imbibing those crucial elements in your kid, and then you're making sure that you supplement it well with your own understanding that hey, how can you make sure that the curiosity remain intact at least or increases. So I think we have to pick the best of the both worlds by being alert to the ecosystem.
Because I think parenting is probably the most difficult job there could be. Because one small mistake and your kids can be something, go in a weird direction. So I'll just back it up a bit, and I just want to know what your company does. Is it a service-based company or a product-based company, or what is it all about?
So it's a very dicey situation. From the perspective that we get the revenues from the services that we do for offshore like countries like US, Singapore, Russia, Europe region. That's how the revenue comes in, and we have built products which we are trying to push into the Indian ecosystem as well as like outside India. Because the product that are built on blockchain, they are like country agnostic. Because they are not like specifically catering to regulations or something like that. So they can be actually built for the whole world rather than like one specific country.
Did you face any problems from the government's end while registering your company as blockchain technology?
Yes, I did.
What kind of?
Actually, when they see a blockchain or a Bitcoin, the words or something related to that, they get very concerned. When I got my company the name registration process got rejected once. I don't know the reason exactly. I think that was the description that they require more detailed description at that time. So we provided that, and I think that then it got successfully registered. That's what my CA told me.
So your name, it's very unique. It says BLOQUE. So was that a coincidence, or did you actually think of French alphabet before?
No,
it was a coincidence.
It was like a post-processing thing. So what we did actually, we were trying to get. So I was like very fascinated with the word called block because we wanted it to be a part of our name. So. And that's how you will see that our logo also is in like the form of a cube. Because we try to stick to the very fundamental of it. And
you look at the logo.
We are sitting in the background was also like those things. So block was important. So we could not find like Block Labs was not available at that time. So we twisted it a bit so that we can just simply get it and just like add a feel to it, add an angle to it. At a fancy angle to
it. And it worked out very good.
And it worked out well because later on we found out, hey, BLOQUE in French is actually a block.
Yes.
So it actually, we eventually land there exactly where we wanted to. It's like shooting for the stars, land on the moon. So the same thing happened. So
you're the first one who has said the code correctly. Usually people say, I shoot for the moon and landed on the stars.
I used to, it's so irritating because people do not understand what they wanted to shoot.
Exactly. So also I saw the branding of your entire website and like the logo and everything. It is like you just have one look at it and you understand, okay, this is a blockchain company. It is so like what's the word? Apt. Yes, apt. Okay, I just had a brain fart. Okay, so like working on a new technology, do you feel like in Indian hemisphere, we are sort of receptive towards adapting to new technologies, or we are like very open-minded. Like, what's the scene?
Definitely not.
Not
Yeah,
open.
no. So we definitely always will feel. So see, the point that you said that hey, when somebody from the ecosystem goes out to try something new, people try to pull their leg. So similarly, you expand it to the whole country. That's what happens.
Exponential rise.
Exponential rise. So if you are trying something new with let's say a fresh technology, you will feel always the friction there because government cannot actually be on top of every technology. So they actually learn from the ecosystem and then they create their regulations.
Okay.
Let's talk about the drone. Like drone comes first to India, then the drone related regulations, aerial vehicle related regulation. Now you can actually play with drone or you can fly the drone within the vicinity itself.
And to a particular height.
All these things. So regulation will always follow the technology and the new inventions. So today, I think if you take the example of the new thing, I think they are not very receptive because at first everybody gets like the very very basic reaction of anybody will be like,
क्या है ये?
क्या है ये? And
क्यों है ये?
will it be like good for us or will
Why
not
should we do
yeah,
this? हमारा already काम चल रहा है, हम और
Correct.
क्यों लें?
Exactly. And yes, and this brings to a very important point. This is actually a technology penetration problem. If you go outside India or let's say some good countries, so they understand that hey, if technology is coming up for certain stuff, it will solve some problem. And they value their time, so they will understand. Hey, I'll be able to just tap, and I'll be able to move out. Why Amazon Go is there? Why not in India?
Yeah.
Right. So there are reasons. Technology penetration. If it the same concept we try to apply in India, we will have like because the technology penetration is not there. People cannot comprehend their mind. Let's say around some new things. It will always be educational challenges. You have to train. Then only you can actually.
Also, I think in India, we are a bit more receptive than rest of the world. Like, even if you go back to the technology sphere of like 1990s when like Rajiv Gandhi tried to bring computers to India, instead of embracing it, there was a huge approach. I was not alive at the time. My mom told me about this. Jobs chale jayenge, sab barbaad ho jayenge. All of that happened. And instead of seeing this, that we will need people to operate those machines, we saw that these machines will overrun us. And like, it's a small example, very small example. I was sitting in a GD of a company that I would not name because they did not select me. I would not give you free advertising for that. So I was sitting in the GD of that in a group discussion, and the topic was, is India ready for driverless cars, right?
Okay.
And instead of analyzing the situation, there were 20 people in the room. And instead of analyzing objectively ki driverless cars hai kya, why do we need it, we just all of them, 19 of them went straight, nahi, hum nahi la sakte. And then I objectively tried to show them ki this is possible. If we have the right infrastructure, if we have the right mentality, this will reduce accidents, this will increase employment, through foreign investment increase hogi, GDP, sab acha hoga. And it's just that we have an inner mindset that
it happens.
Kuch bhi naya ho, we won't do it. We have to stick to our lane.
So that's what the herd mentality is all about. Like we try to become the follower of any proven stuff. We will not be just the one like who will just make sure that we become the pioneer in it. We try not to be the pioneer in some of the things.
Like moving on from that, obviously blockchain is a new sphere of technology, and there is some compassion to people who do not understand it, because even I did not understand it up until this morning. And I spent like entire day, I missed all my classes and I was just researching ki hai kya blockchain. Enough to know that I can talk about it at least. Like itna now ki I'm sitting here, okay, I say now. So let's make everyone understand the importance of blockchain. So what are some of its major applications which we can utilize in real life, and why should we care about it? Like, what is so unique about this technology that it is in the rage right now?
So blockchain actually helps you to first of all cut down a lot of redundant infrastructure's cost.
Okay. In what sense?
In what sense? Let's consider a case like in finance. In finance, let's say. Let's consider how a foreign currency comes to my bank account. Let's say today I deal with USA or other foreign countries. How does the money comes in? let's say you live in USA and if you want to send that money to me, you have to leverage the current banking infrastructure to send that money to me.
Okay.
If you would have been in the vicinity, you could have given me cash. That's the most easiest way. And there is no third party which will take a cut in that situation.
Okay.
Right? But let's say if that is traveling through multiple hops, and that too, if that bank is same, the charges will be less. But if there is like multiple banks,
Then individual charges and individual banks.
more intermediary increases the more cost to the whole transaction. So if you see that there will be like, so it's like exchanging hands.
So instead of like if you're buying a property, instead of buying a property through a real estate agent, you're buying it properly, directly.
Yes.
So that is
The cost, and because it's always the intermediary. So we are not trying to say that hey, everything can go peer to peer, but hey, we are trying to say that hey, rather than multiple intermediary, can we reduce them? If there is any, is that required? So we are trying to question everything what is coming in between of those two end party like who want to transact. So if that can actually boils down to a level that where we do not need it at all, we can actually bring it down to the peer-to-peer level. Today cryptocurrency is the one as such example. Today you can actually send the equal amount of value that you want to send from US to any other country
without any
middleman. Directly. So in the middleman, there is only one thing, like there are miners, and that to miners you do not like have to like pay a hefty fee. Bitcoin blockchain or any other blockchain still support, let's say zero or like nearly zero fees, which is like way too less when it comes to like a current infrastructure cost. Sometimes they are also trying to see. Now everybody see this that hey, there is competition, so everybody is trying to cut their costs so low that because they can see. And recently, FATF, Financial Task Force. Financial Action Task Force, I think that's FATF. Yes, they are now bringing up regulations around G20 nations, so that they just discussed it in I think the Japan, the meeting that held in Japan. So they are trying to
meeting?
G20.
G20
Yeah, G20 summit that happened. So they were trying to actually bring the G20 nations into the conscious that hey, there is something called cryptocurrency or blockchain financial use case, something like that.
Even Sweden is employing cryptocurrency as its official currency in like near future, or has it done it already?
Japan actually says that hey, you can pay for the daily groceries via Bitcoin. We accept that as a legal tender. There is a reason to do that.
It's a legal tender.
It's legal tender.
That is a huge step.
I think they accept it as legal tender.
So for all
I hope I'm not mistaken with that, because I know for sure that Japan is definitely have legalized this Bitcoin. They accept that Bitcoin, that hey, you can use Bitcoin to pay or to render like as a payment for rendering these services.
So basically, legal tender is something, a piece of like this could be legal tender if it can be exchanged for some commodity.
Your government actually accept that hey, this can be paid for rendering the services, then it becomes a legal tender. That's what the definition. This can become a legal tender if a government acknowledges the fact that hey, you can pay via this module for any service rendered that you.
Okay. Because the good thing about cryptocurrency, while I did my research, it said that it's decentralized in nature. Like our currency is controlled by the RBI. So suppose Indian government takes a financial misstep. Suddenly, if I'm having like 1 lakh rupees, its value decreases in dollars immediately without my interference, without my say-so. So cryptocurrency is sort of rejecting that centralized authority
establishment.
So would it be a good idea to, in the near future or in the distant future, to have cryptocurrency as the official world currency?
So cryptocurrencies actually have the potential to become the native value system, exchange of value. If I say so, like it can become a fundamental native currency to the internet, where like anybody can send any money to anyone at any point of time. It's like it's almost easier like sending an email to anybody else.
Okay.
So it has the potential, but we have to also cater to the fact that hey, there can be reasons that why we are not doing it, and if we are doing it, what is the way that we acknowledge these things, and we try to invite them in the current establishments, because it goes against the it's like this protocol is like rebellious in
it
nature.
takes away the authority of the government. It basically breaks away all the
Exactly.
borders.
So that's not gonna happen very anytime soon. At least
I don't
in
think
India.
it will ever happen,
Yeah.
but it's just a
Let's
utopian world that you
just-
can
yeah.
imagine. Okay, this
Yeah.
can happen. It will be nice.
True.
So, like, one of the last questions, I just have two more questions. It's a very basic question. What is the future of blockchain technology in your opinion? Like,
So
where are we headed?
Yeah, I think the blockchain can definitely be used in the government's like for social good. Like if you wanna make people accountable for actual social good that they have done, I think blockchain is the way to go. So that we can make that information available out in the public for anyone to see, anyone to verify. I think this can actually help a lot of people. Call it disputed lands. If we have those information available, we will not transact on that land at all. We'll always transact on the land like which is authorized by government, and people do not have to pay for any money for getting those things verified. Today people go via official channels, and they have to pay a little bit amount of money, let's say, to that official channel itself. It's like fees that, let's say I'll pay convenience fees to, let's say I'll pay a little bit amount of fee to the advocate who will try to get it done via development authorities, and they'll check all the background record of that particular land, whether it's disputed or not. So all these things, like, they should be out in the public. Dubai is doing a lot good in that sense.
Okay.
They have made a platform which can actually be used by its citizens.
Okay, that is very insightful. I did not know anything about blockchain technology, and I can safely say that after this podcast, I have a bit of an interest in this, and I'll try to explore more.
Sure.
Coding is not my forte, but I'll try it. So, before we end, any concluding advice to any of the budding entrepreneurs out there? Something like 3 points, 2 points, something that they need to know before starting out.
So first of all, the very first advice goes back to making sure those 50 check boxes. So a couple of those check boxes work for me was my family understood my decision. I did my thorough research about myself, like how will I behave how generally I behave when I go in something new, because that is more important. And financial is very, very important. Let's say for any entrepreneur who want to try something new, make sure the financials are pretty well taken off.
Yes.
Otherwise, do not even try. Reason for that, that's what I said. There is a thin line between being very smart and being rebellious. But you have to be smartly rebel.
Yeah, you need to be smart about it.
Yes.
Okay.
That's pretty much my 2 cents.
I think that is probably the best episode I've done till now.
Awesome.
Thanks a lot for joining
Thank
us,
you.
sir.
Thank
It
you.
was a pleasure to have you.
Same
That marks the end of our episode. This episode of Bear with Kalra. Stay tuned for more episodes. You can subscribe to us on YouTube channel.
Yes.
The link will be in description.
Yeah.
I'll also
Somewhere here.
Yeah, somewhere. Kahi hoga. Okay, and you can listen to us on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. Basically, जहाँ पे भी podcast हो सकते हो वहाँ पे हम होंगे. Stay tuned for more. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.